Hello, thanks for making it back. I know the last video was long, and every once in a while somebody will say, well, is there any way you can break this down a little shorter? Yes. But our goal is not to get through the Bible quickly. Our goal is to learn God's Word. And sometimes there's a lot to understand. Also, I'm not covering everything. Each chapter could go on for a couple of weeks sometimes. So I'm doing some high level stuff. So if you want to really get down into the details, which is what I want you to do, I want you to take what I'm teaching you and dig deeper. I'm basically giving you a hammer. I want you to go out there and build a house with it. And you're going to have to figure out how to do that kind of stuff. But I can't explain every detail of how to build a house because I don't know how to build a house actually. But I know a lot of this. I have not mastered the Bible. I am not the best. I'm not even one of the best Bible teachers. All I'm trying to do is give you a little bit of an appetite for it. So we're going to jump into Exodus 13. And it's a dedication of the firstborn. And let's get right to it. I'm going to read from the complete Jewish version. Adonai said to Moshe, set aside for me all the firstborn. Whatever is first from the womb among the people of Israel, both of humans and of animals, belongs to me. Moshe said to the people, remember this day on which you left Egypt, the abode of slavery, because Adonai, by the strength of his hand, has brought you out of this place. Do not eat hametz, which is leaven. You are leaving today in the month of Aviv, when Adonai brings you into the land of Canaan, Hittite, Amorite, Hivite, and Yishu, which he swore to your ancestors to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey. You are to observe this ceremony in this month. For 7 days you are to eat matzah, and the seventh day is to be a festival for Adonai. Matzah is to be eaten throughout the 7 days. Neither hametz, leaven, or leavening agents are to be seen with you throughout your territory. The whole land. So on that day you are to tell your son, it is because of what Adonai did for me when I left Egypt. Moreover, it will serve you as a sign on your hand and as a reminder between your eyes, so that Adonai's Torah may be on your lips. Because with a strong hand Adonai brought you out of Egypt. Therefore, you are to observe this regulation at its proper time year after year. When Adonai brings you into the land of Canaan, as he swore to you and your ancestors, and gives it to you, you are to set apart for Adonai everything that is first from the womb. Every firstborn male animal will belong to Adonai. Every firstborn from a donkey you are to redeem with a lamb. But if you choose not to redeem it, you must break its neck. But from people you are to redeem every firstborn male. When at some future time your son asks you, what is this? Then say to him, with a strong hand Adonai brought us out of Egypt, out of the abode of slavery. When Pharaoh was unwilling to let us go, Adonai killed all the firstborn males in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of humans and the firstborn of animals. This is why I sacrifice to Adonai any male that is first from the womb of an animal, but all the firstborn of my sons I redeem. This will serve as a sign on your hand and at the front of your headband around your forehead, that with a strong hand Adonai brought us out of Egypt. After Pharaoh had let the people go, God did not guide them to the highway that goes through the land of Shushan, which is the Philistines, because it was close by. God thought that the people, upon seeing war, might change their minds and return to Egypt. Have you ever gotten somewhere God told you to go, oh, that looks too tough, I'm going back? That's exactly what he's teaching them here. So rather, God led the people by a roundabout route through the desert by the Sea of Sup. The people of Israel went up from the land of Egypt fully armed. I didn't really even know that until I studied Exodus. They had everything they needed. Sounds a lot like us. We have everything we need. So Moshe took the bones of Joseph with him, for Joseph had made the people of Israel swear an oath when he said, God will certainly remember you, and you are to carry my bones up with you, away from here. They traveled from Sukkot and set up camp in Etam, E-T-A-M, not Eden, at the edge of the desert. Adonai went ahead of them in a column of cloud during the daytime to lead them on their way, and at night in a column of fire to give them light. Thus they could travel both day and night. Neither the column of cloud by day nor the column of fire at night went away from in front of the people. So if you've seen the Ten Commandments movie, let my people go, there's a cloud in front of all the Israelites. But this was actually a call. They were in columns. They marched through. It wasn't just like 3 million people walking. There's a long column. So not really relevant, but just one of those things that sometimes it's better in the movie. you gotta dramatize it a little bit. So an additional command is ordered. You're to remove leaven from your territory. So God delivering Israel is to be taught to the children. So why get it out of your territory? Well, because in my house, if the rest of my house is set apart for God and I don't have sin in it, but I do in here, then the whole house is bad. The whole house is contaminated, so to speak. So what he's saying is, don't be okay with sin being over there. And this is a really neat concept that the Baptists got early on. In my hometown, there was a liquor. You couldn't sell liquor or beer in my hometown because we had a Baptist church on every corner. But you could just 2 miles outside the city, like right outside the city limits, was a liquor store on both sides of the city. And that's basically that concept is we won't call it sin if it's over there. Now they said we wanted it out of our territory, but they all went there. So we can't keep our sin somewhere else is basically what God's telling us. The Canaanites were from Noah's grandsons, Canaan. Remember, Canaan was cursed by God. Remember when he cursed Canaan's grandson or son? Look at all that had to happen before Christ came. All of this stuff had to be set up. Nations built, destroyed, entire peoples decimated, persecution of the Jews. Redemption is not God's end plan. Redemption is just a step towards it. And this is where I think we've gotten it wrong, is once we're saved, that's it. That's the goal. Get everybody saved. It's like, no. That's like everybody on a boat putting a life jacket on and then just sitting there. It's like, no, we need to do some stuff. Let's maybe grab the lifeboat, steer away. Let's do something. Don't just put your life jacket on and sit there. That's just the first step to the final stage of having a universe of perfection. That's his goal. I mean, that's the end game. And here's a scary thought. Well, not a scary thought. For me, it's a very reassuring thought. He's going to do it whether we do it with him or not. So shouldn't we do it with him? Shouldn't we follow what he wants us to do to be part of his final plan? So he wants this universe of perfection, and it'll be full of human beings that love him and commune with him for all eternity. That's what heaven is. That's what the promised land is. That's what drives me crazy about people who don't think the Old Testament matters, because this is the stuff we're going to be doing. We're going to be worshiping and communing with God in the way he wants. It's not going to be the way we choose. It's the way he chooses. And if you don't want to do that, it's like racist. For a Christian to be racist is just ignorant at best, because there's going to be so many people in heaven that don't look like me. If I don't like people that don't look like me, I'm going to be miserable in heaven, because there's going to be a lot less white, male, brown-eyed, blonde-haired guys than I would think there will be. Also, Jesus doesn't look like me either, but we'll get into that later on. So verse 9 says, having a mark on your hand and a reminder between your eyes. And it's repeated again in verse 16. You may have seen Jews wearing the headband, or they have a little black box attached to their head and the tefillin tied around their arm, that leather strap, and it has a little black box attached to it. This is how Orthodox Jews take the meaning of verses 9 and 16. This is how you keep that reminder, and they don't wear it all the time. It's more of a special thing when they do it a lot, daily, sometimes weekly, to remember these verses right here. So if you've ever seen that, that's where that comes from. So verse 11 sets up the God principle of redemption. The Jews have more of a nationalistic view of redemption, and we kind of see the Messiah coming for our personal benefit, but they see it more from a nationalistic, a whole people group kind of saving thing. So they see the Messiah as returning to glory and power as the nation establishing its physical kingdom on earth around a physical Israel. And this is why they missed it, because it wasn't about physical Israel, it was about spiritual Israel. So from Moses forward, the father paid the high priest money to redeem his son. So I would go in and give money to redeem my firstborn son, or I could give other things, an animal or other things. But basically, it would be the cost of a clean animal, which would be a ram for that sacrifice. So I would sacrifice a ram to redeem my son, as opposed to sacrificing my son and killing my son. So in the Israelites have a choice of killing the donkey or paying the redemptive price. I'm not sure why God singled out a donkey. Hard-headed animal, maybe he's making a reference to me. I don't know. But that was one of those things he just included, and we have to accept it. We don't need to know why. But the price of a clean animal was important, because that's how you redeemed animals like a donkey. Now, we may think, I don't want a donkey, but a donkey was really the trucking industry of that time. I mean, a donkey was how you got everything moved around and stuff. So sometimes they would not redeem the donkey because the ram was more valuable to them for food or for whatever reason. So he gave the choice. But God makes it clear in verse 13 that human firstborn males must be redeemed. We don't really have that choice. There's been times when I didn't want to redeem my firstborn. So, he didn't give us that choice. He knew we would waffle on that one sometimes. I'm just kidding. I didn't try to redeem my firstborn son. But God says, tell their children that a human life must be redeemed, and it involves a price. A price must be paid. He's setting up that pattern for what Yeshua did for us. Something must be given. And God used the Egyptian firstborns as the redemptive price of Israel, his chosen and set apart people. So the principle and process of redemption is set up. This is where it starts. The price of substitutionary death. Something has to substitute for you and I. And the substitution must be a firstborn male. These are the rules he made up. So the premise of Yeshua's substitutory death is in place, and it's not optional. It must be done. So verse 17 shifts to the actual Exodus. It starts with the reason God led them on the route he did. The way of the Philistines was a trade route, and he didn't want them to go up against the Philistines because he thought they would get discouraged. But also Egypt had fortresses set up along this trade route to protect trade and stuff. So it was a heavily occupied route, so he didn't want to take them that way. So Israel's leaving would change the culture and balance of power wherever they wound up. Because when 4 million people show up, which in the U.S. we know that now because of our open borders, 8 million people came across this year so far. That changes the culture and the power and the base of operations in a place. Yahweh knew if they had to fight, they would probably give up and go back to Egypt. So we try to keep one foot in our old life, see if this will work out, then we'll jump over there. That's not the way to go. That's why we move in together before we get married. Well, let me see if I want to be with you before I do that. And God said, no, you can't do that. You need to commit to me. You can't have one foot back in slavery. It doesn't work that way. Now, Joseph laid the groundwork for Israel to come to Egypt for survival, then to multiply in a great nation. Because remember, there were only about 70, probably 200, and then they grew into millions. So, and his family did really well. So the bitter jealousy of that, along with the Exodus, has never subsided, because basically they see the Jews as coming in, taking everything and then leaving, and they left them decimated. So they don't like Jews for that reason. Now, there's a lot of just unmitigated hate towards the Jews that's based purely evil. It's a hard issue. It's not based on things like this, but this is part of the reason they didn't like, or still don't like, the Jews. But unlike what the movies claim, they actually knew they were going to Canaan. Everything we've read up to this point, he's told them that they're going to Canaan. The Lord told them they couldn't take the way of the Philistines, so the route was generally established for them. They knew, hey, this is a main road, and he told them which way they had to go. So they were aware. Yehovah was their escort. He was guarding, protecting, and running interference, but they had to believe that was happening. Otherwise, they'd turn around and run the other direction. So he would tell them when to move, when to stop, when to take a detour, and when to get back on the path. Isn't that really the way Yeshua works in our lives? He tells us, hey, you're getting a little bit off here. You need to go this way. You need to slow down. You need to speed up, whatever it is. If we'll just follow, he'll lead us exactly where we want to go, or where he wants us to go. Maybe not where we want to go, but that's Exodus chapter 13. God bless. Love God, love people, and change the world.